Hi, today I'm going to talk about some different verb tenses in English. Hopefully you're going to like this and enjoy what I teach you. First, let's think about the past perfect and the present perfect tenses. Present perfect. She has learned so much English grammar that she's an expert. They have talked about moving for a few months. Has learned, present perfect. Have talked, present perfect. Two verbs. Have or has is first. And then we call the past participle, but in the past tense, it's the same as past. Regular verb, same as past. Past perfect. I hadn't expected to get a bonus that month. Or, she hadn't planned on coming to the U.S., but the opportunity came. I hadn't expected. She hadn't planned. Interesting. Both perfect tenses can be hard. So here are some examples and explanations, but first, the simple past. Remember the simple past. It was such a nice day yesterday. Past tense of to be, it was. She wasn't supposed to be there that early. Was or were is used for the verb to be in the past. For other verbs, we say things like, we had a nice lunch yesterday, or we didn't have enough money to get that car. We had, we didn't have. She ate breakfast. He didn't eat breakfast. That's a simple past. I'm sure you've learned it before. Why am I bringing this up? Because all verb tenses get confusing. And the more we learn them, the more confusing they can get. Look at this sentence. These are some good examples of the past perfect. Even after sleeping more than 7 hours, he still felt pretty tired since he had had such a busy week. Where is the past perfect? He had had. He had had such a busy week. Another example. Unfortunately, they hadn't checked their son's passport before getting to the airport. When they arrived, they discovered it had expired a few months prior to their trip. Since it was expired, they couldn't take the trip they had planned. They wound up losing lots of the money that they had spent on the plane tickets and hotels. But what could they do? Look at the different past perfect. They hadn't checked. They hadn't checked their son's passport. They discovered it had expired before that time. They wound up losing lots of the money that they had spent. They had spent when? In the past, before that example. Oh boy, past perfect. Very interesting. Look at this sentence. She has had a headache all day. It's present perfect. They haven't eaten lunch. Present perfect. She has already taken her dog on 2 walks today. Yes, these sentences are in the present perfect. Past perfect. I hadn't taken the trash out before I went to bed last night. I hadn't cleaned the kitchen before I went to bed last night. I hadn't taken a shower before I went to bed last night. Could these be simple past? Yes. I didn't take a shower before I went to bed last night. I didn't clean the kitchen before I went to bed last night. That's past tense. So we have past perfect or past. Both are acceptable, could be used. Sometimes, guys, we can use both the past and the past perfect, and they work. Of course, I mean simple past or past perfect. Often, we can use many tenses to say the same thing. So once again, the simple past and past perfect can often be used in the same sentence. I hadn't finished the video I was working on. I didn't finish the video I was working on. I didn't knit anything yesterday. I hadn't knitted anything yesterday. Easy, right? Maybe. Simple past and past perfect work also could. Look at this. I didn't go outside yesterday because I was very busy. I couldn't go outside yesterday because I was busy. I hadn't gone outside yesterday. I couldn't check my emails. I didn't check my emails. I hadn't checked my emails yesterday. Look at this other one. I didn't get to the school on time to pick up my daughter yesterday after her school finished. I couldn't get to the school on time to pick up my daughter yesterday after her school finished. Or maybe I hadn't gotten there on time to pick up my daughter yesterday after her school finished. All of them work. Interesting, right? Guys, I want you to think how language can be interesting, funny, fascinating. Wow. We can say things in more than one way. If you're getting good enough at English to use English in more than one way to say the same thing, don't think about it as being confusing. Think about it as being interesting, surprising, fascinating. Wow, cool. Can you? I'd like to challenge you to do that. I know things can seem confusing, but if we say in my mind, oh, it's so confusing, that's confusing, what you're saying in your head is, I can't understand it. If it's interesting, wow, maybe I can understand it. Try to be positive. Simple past and past perfect work plus could. Let's think about changing this. We've got the same first three sentences, and then we could change get to the verb be at. I didn't get to the school on time to pick up my daughter. I couldn't get to the school on time. I hadn't gotten there on time. Those are using get. Be at would be another way. Look at these last three sentences at the bottom. I wasn't at school on time to pick up my daughter yesterday after her school finished. I wasn't at school, or I couldn't be at school on time to pick up my daughter. One more time. I couldn't be at school on time to pick up my daughter, or I hadn't been at school. Well, that kind of sounds weird. I hadn't been at school on time. I'm not sure about that one. Past perfect is used in two major ways. First off, number one, there are several actions in the past, and the past perfect is used to show that one action happened before another action. I had decided to take a shower, so I was late to pick up my son. I had been cooking, so I was late to get my daughter. I was cooking, so I was late to get my daughter. Wait. What do we got here? I had decided is what tense? Past perfect. I had been cooking, Past perfect progressive. I was cooking. Past progressive. Oh boy. Very interesting. It is also used just for past actions in general, but only past actions, not things that continue to the present. They finished, they're done, happened in the past. A funny thing about English is the present perfect. We use one of the present tenses for the past. The present perfect can be used for the past and is often used for the past. Let's look at it in questions and sentences. But before we do, here's the explanation. When we describe things in the past and do not focus on the specific time in the past, we can use the present perfect. The present perfect is also used to describe something from the past to now, the present. The present perfect progressive does that as well. From the past to now, what do I mean? Well, I have taught English for 26 years. I have been teaching English for a long time. Present perfect for past. Look at this. Have you ever been to a country in Africa? Have you ever learned French? That means any time in your life. How about this one? How many times have you learned this? Oh, teacher, I have learned this many times. You know, that's okay. How many times do we need to learn something to remember it? A lot of times. How many times has she been to the beach this year? She has been to the beach 20 times. How many times have you gotten a speeding ticket? I have gone to Disneyland so many times. Present perfect and past in questions. Have you ever been to a country in Africa? Have you ever learned French? Were you ever in a country in Africa? Did you ever go to a country? Did you ever learn French? They're pretty much the same questions. Did you ever means any time in your life. Have you ever means what? Any time in your life. How about these ones? Ever in questions. Do you ever meet John? That means in general. Maybe John was our friend and we're friends. Do you ever see John? Do you ever talk with John? Do you ever meet John? I mean, anytime. Do you ever knit blankets? Present tense. Future. Will you ever knit a tapestry? Will you ever learn English? Yeah, I will. Present perfect. Have you ever been to a country in Africa? Have you ever learned French? Past. Were you ever? Did you ever? So we could use do you ever? Will you ever? Have you ever? Did you ever? Ay, ay, ay. Ever is used in many tenses. Let's move on. Present perfect for the past. When we have no specific time for the past, he has climbed many of the highest mountains in the world. He has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. He did that in the past, but does it say when? If it's last year, I would say he climbed, past tense. He climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year. Present perfect and present perfect progressive are used from the past to now. I've been a priest for 5 years, somebody could say. I've been living in this house for 11 years. I've been married for 12 years. These are in the past. They have a specific past time, like last year. Last year, I forgot our anniversary. Last year, I had forgotten our anniversary. Had forgotten is what? That's not simple past now, it's what? Past perfect. Very interesting. Past tenses with past time. Present perfect with since and for. When did you get married? I got married, past tense, on October 17, 2009. When did you start teaching kindergarten? I started teaching 10 years ago. I have been teaching for 10 years because you're still teaching. I have been teaching since 2011. You're still teaching. When were you ordained as a priest? I was ordained on July 9th, 2016. I was ordained more than 5 years ago, which would be correct since today is in 2021, October. Past progressive. Remember, this tense shows that something was happening for a period of time in the past. How long was she reading? She was reading for 7 hours. How long were they talking on the phone? They were talking on the phone all night. Past progressive. When you're doing something else at the same time as something else. She was singing some songs while she was cleaning the place. He was listening to music while he was driving. We're using, with while, we use past progressive. Look at this next one. I was cooking when he called me. When she got the package, she was taking a shower. And there's when, we use simple past. Past perfect progressive. Oh boy. Had been, and then another verb with ing. He had been hoping we would be there early. She had been planning on taking a vacation. I had been making so many videos. Can you use the 4 past tenses? Simple past, past progressive, past perfect progressive. You bet you can. Remember, present perfect can also be used for the past. Relax. I hope this helped you some. Have a great one, and thank you for listening to this.